Andrew Tate gives a in-depth 4 hour long interview with Patrick Bet David from Value Entertainment, or I'm sorry, from Valuetainment. Let me get that right. And it was amazing. It was the most in-depth interview with Andrew Tate I've watched yet. More in-depth than any of the podcasts he's been on. He opens up about things he's never talked about before, and we're going to talk about some of those issues. I'm your host, Hyde. This is Hide and Seek Media. Hello, all you beautiful and amazing people. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to the show. If you're new to the channel, here at Hide and Seek Media, what I'm trying to do is bring a blue collar, common sense perspective on politics, culture, and sports. And today I want to bring you this interview with Andrew Tate, with Patrick Bet David. It was amazing. It's 4 hours long. It was like 4.5 hours long, actually. So it took forever to get through. But it was so compelling that I had to watch the entire thing. So I recommend you guys go to check out Valuetainment, their channel. If you're not already subscribed over there, check out their interview that they did with this recent interview they've done with Andrew Tate, because they did another interview that was like 2 hours long, I think 2.5 hours long, like 9 or 10 months ago. And then they, of course he was in jail through all this, nonsense that's going on in Romania. And when he, finally came out, he initially agreed to do an interview with the BBC. Ooh, sorry about that. And that just turned out to be a hit piece, even though they told him that it wasn't going to be. And he gets into that in the interview with Patrick Bet David. I have to say that, just on a side note, for Valuetainment, that is probably one of the best podcast shows I've watched in a while. I'm always looking for new alternative entertainment and media, and Patrick Bet David lands some great interviews that some other prominent YouTubers and independent media people don't get. And so I really like his approach to the interview process. Not only did I enjoy this Andrew Tate interview and the one before that, but just scrolling through, one of my favorite interviews that he did was with Kobe Bryant. I watched that one. I've probably watched that one 4 or 5 times, just because I really admired Kobe and what he was doing, not only in the game of basketball, but outside of the game of basketball as well. And, bringing Valuetainment to my forefront with that interview was probably one of the, that's how I found Valuetainment. Was I found that interview with Kobe Bryant, and I watched it because I'm a fan of Kobe Bryant's, and then that made me a fan of Valuetainment and a fan of Patrick Bet David. So if you haven't, I'm not, plugging them or anything, but go check them out. It's an interesting show and an interesting podcast. They really do ask some interesting and hard hitting questions sometimes. So they push back on some guests. It's a really good podcast, really good show. So I would check it out. But I want to stay, I want to get back to Andrew Tate, because it is obvious that the powers that be, global elites, the matrix, whatever you want to call them, right? Right? Whatever you believe it is, there is a force out there that is trying to direct the world into a certain direction, in a certain narrative. And there are those out there who don't see it because they don't pay attention to it, right? They live in their own little universe, in their own little world, and they would rather not know what's going on the big global scale, because they would just rather not be bothered with it, because they don't feel like it directly impacts their life on a daily basis. So why should they pay attention to it? Why should it take up any of their time? Excuse me. I've been losing my voice for a couple of days, so I'm trying to nurture it as much as I can. But the reason why Andrew Tate is being attacked by these so-called, global elites or the Matrix or, whatever you want to call it, is because of what he teaches. Now, a lot of people don't like the way he teaches it and the manner in which he gets his message across. But at the end of the day, what he's teaching, I believe, is something that is absolutely necessary to the survival of society as we know it. Okay? So all Andrew Tate really does is talk about men being responsible, accountable, and being men, masculine, taking that traditional masculine role of being the provider and the protector and all of that, not being lazy and having a good work ethic and having pride and honor in your family name and your, and having a sense of pride in that. I mean, like, now this is the first time I've ever done this, so bear with me, fellow people, but I want to try and play this clip for us and see if I can do this. All right. So let's see if I can play this clip. And this is one of the things he's talking about, by respecting his family name, right?
I've been like that my whole life. And now we've removed all standards from everybody. This is why you get school shooters. These school shooters should be too embarrassed to even embarrass their fathers. They should wake up and go, I would never do this to my family. And I'll also, this is definitely going to get me canceled, but I'm going to say it because it's true. I'll say it by extension for suicide. I don't care what you do to me. I'm Andrew Tate. I cannot kill myself.
Okay, so yeah, now, and right there, he starts to go into, the suicide thing. And more so, I think that was more so like he's trying to say, hey, look, if by some reason or some weird thing I get Epsteined, don't believe it, right? Don't believe it. So let him finish here what he said.
I can't. I'm not allowed. It's against the creed of my last name. I didn't have ancestors who suffered how they suffered, who went through what they went through, for me to be born, to kill myself. That's not the end of my story. I refuse. I absolutely refuse. No matter how bad it gets or what bad situation I'm in, I refuse to do it because I have too much respect for my last name. I won't do it.
See? And that's what he's talking about, right? Having respect for your last name, pride in your name and your family name. And I mean, I get that, right? I understand that because I was raised that way. I was raised in the way to like have respect for your name and understand that your actions are a reflection of your parents. And part of what made me understand that at a very, very young age was my dad being in the military and being enlisted. So like funny little family story here. Like whenever I was, I don't know, third or fourth grade, I started, seeing this girl, or whatever, my girlfriend, so to speak, back then, whatever a girlfriend could be back then. Right. But her dad was an officer. My dad was an enlisted. Right. And so like for us to hang out and do whatever, that's not a big, but that wasn't a big deal. But my dad and her dad could never hang out socially, because enlisted aren't allowed to socialize with officers socially outside of work and vice versa, right? So that's why in the military you have an enlisted club and officers club, because they're not supposed to commingle. One is a position of authority, and that authority should always be respected. So early on, I was taught, hey, when you do something, when you act a certain way, when you get in trouble, it gets your dad in trouble. When you do this, your dad can get in trouble too. And so you gotta be mindful of what you're doing so that you don't, tarnish your dad's name, and hurt his so-called career, whatever it was, right? That's what helped get it through to me. But the bottom line of what he's saying is have respect for your family lineage and all of the hardships that the people in your family before you went through to make you possible, right? Have some respect for that. Have some honor in that, and try to live your life that way. That's one of the things that he teaches. And I get that. I understand that completely. And I 100% believe that a man should act that way, and make sure that all of his actions are a reflection of his upbringing and of his father in some ways, because that is a way to honor their sacrifice and their hardships, right? So I totally get what he's saying in that regard. But again, like part of that clip, you heard him say, men who are not like this is why you get school shooters, right? Because when you tell men to not act this way and just allow their emotions to take control and react on their emotions and act on their emotions, then they become very, very dangerous men, right? And that's how you get school shooters. And he's right. Like when you start telling men that
we're evolved with that inclination towards aggression. We need that to protect.
Sorry about that, guys. Like I said, still kind of new to this. Working on this, and bear with me. I'm my own producer, so I'm trying to do all of this on my own, right? But he's right. Like people, a school shooter, like those people that do those kinds of things, right? They don't take into consideration how it's going to reflect on their family, and not just their mother and father, but their extended family as well. Because anybody that's related to them personally and knows them is going to have to deal with the consequences of those actions, and that they didn't care or they didn't respect their family name enough to not do those things, right? And maybe that's because it wasn't taught in the home, or it's not part of their upbringing. But that in itself is a problem, and that's what he's saying, right? We should not be teaching men to act on their emotions, that they should, be logical and methodical in their approach to life and in their actions, because they have to be stoic, they have to be strong, they have to be a protector and a provider. So acting on your emotions, there's no time for that. There's no room to be depressed. Like Andrew Tate says, there is no depression, right? There's no such thing as depression. If you believe in depression, then you're a weak man, and you need to, change your mindset and change your outlook on life, and maybe change what you're doing in your life. And I get that too. And a lot of this kind of speaks to me in certain ways, because there are things that I could be doing better in my life that I want to be doing. Well, like Andrew Tate says, that I would like to be doing, because if I wanted to do it, I would do it, right? Anything that you want, you get it. Other things that you would like are the things that you are willing to, no, I don't want to do it today, right? And that's not the mentality to have. And I'm going to say I'm guilty of having that mentality a lot of times, because, there are a lot of things that I would like to be doing, and I would like to have a structure in my day, but it's hard. It's hard, especially with the life I have right now, the schedule I have right now with working, a full-time regular job at night and then taking care of family during the day. It's and trying to squeeze all this in. It's rough. It's rough to maintain a legitimate routine. But I'm trying, right? And I'm striving to reach these goals that Tate sets out and says, if you want to be rich and have all the luxury in the world and have all the freedom that money brings, you have to do these certain things, and you have to be this kind of person. and I'm trying to reach that goal, right? I'm trying to reach that goal, but I wanted to get back to the point of emotions. Emotional men are dangerous because that makes a lot of sense to me when you look at it from like a high school perspective. And I don't know if any of you guys out watching this have ever had gone through being bullied in high school. I got bullied a little bit in high school. It wasn't really bad. I had, some friends and all that. But, I wasn't like the cool kid or whatever. There were some times where I did get, pushed around a little bit. And to my regret, sometimes I wish I would have stood my ground a little firmer, right? A little stronger than I did. And maybe things may have turned out differently. I don't know. But looking back on it, I definitely wish I would have, been a little bit more confrontational in those moments. But I learned from that, right? I learned that I should have been confrontational because it could have changed the whole dynamic of the situation. And it could have led down a different set of choices. So I at least learned from that mistake. But men that act on their emotions are irrational, and they end up doing crazy things and making stupid decisions. I want to play this clip and just listen to what Andrew has to say about how emotional men being dangerous.
We're evolved with that inclination towards aggression. We need that to protect and provide. That's who we are. We need that bravery. But having a bunch of depressed, sad men who have no emotional control is dangerous for society. I say this all the time. They try and pretend that I'm somehow dangerous for society by telling men to stand up for themselves and be masculine. Absolutely not, really not. When you tell a man to have no emotional control and be more feminine, that's a school shooter. A school shooter is not a man with masculine accountability. He's a man who's told, act how you feel all the time. Then he gets picked on for long enough. Throw on some drugs on top his psychiatrist gave him. Throw in a lack of a girlfriend, and he's had enough. That's where school shooting comes from. School shooting does not come from men being masculine. It comes from the absolute opposite of these things. And they know this. They know this very, very well.
See, so like, I just want to pause there because it's kind of, it's a little bit long of a clip and I don't want to, get a nab for playing PBD's, podcast. But I wanted to just make that point. Like, he's right. Like, these guys that go into these schools and do these stupid things for being picked on or whatever, being bullied. I tell you this, I never really got bullied that bad. Like, there was other kids that got bullied way worse than I did in school. But I can tell you that I never once thought about that. Never once did I ever think about that. I mean, to me, that never even wasn't even an option. Right? It was like, if I wanted to get back at somebody for picking on me or something, then I would find a way to get back at them, to publicly embarrass them in some way, right? Because that to me was way worse than, not way worse than a school shooting, obviously, but that's like right there. Like, being embarrassed in front of your peers, in front of your entire school, that could have way worse effects than just being bullied, right? So, like, being bullied every day, you'll tend to find a way to get used to it. You'll find a way to deal with it and cope. Getting embarrassed in front of everybody, that is hard to come back from, and that's hard to just show your face without, without falling into depression. And I know, Tate says, oh, I don't believe in depression. I do. I believe that that depression exists, because I've lived through it. And I spent a good part of my 20s dealing with depression. And I did it the wrong way. I did it with alcohol and drugs and ignorance. And it led down a lot of hard roads. I'll say that. But I did also, excuse me. Oh, sorry. I did also realize that part of those decisions that I was making while I was in that depression were based on the emotions I was feeling, and so it makes sense, you know, when I look at it from that perspective, when I apply it to my life in some way, like how does that apply to my life, right? Well, okay, yeah, in my 20s, I was going through a very severe depression, and I didn't understand it at the time. I knew I wasn't happy, but I didn't understand that I was actually, in a, severe depressive state. Like, and I was just trying to find happiness wherever I could. And alcohol and drugs and partying with my friends and ignoring the problems that were causing my depression was the wrong answer, but it was how I chose to deal with it. And like I said, it led down a lot of hard roads. Now, I don't regret those hard roads because it led me here. It gave me the experiences and the life experience I have to pass on to my kids and to other people, so that they don't make those the same mistakes. They stop and think about the choice they're going to make in that moment and go, well, I remember hearing, Hyde say he made this decision, and it kind of led down a hard road and he chose this. And so I remember hearing that one time. And so maybe I ought to rethink about what I'm going to do here, because maybe making a different decision may lead to a better path. Right. So I get that, because I understand how acting on your emotions can be dangerous. I mean, not to the school shooter level, but even just in your own life, it can be dangerous in a way where it makes you make a decision you normally wouldn't have made if you were thinking logically and using sound judgment in that moment. And what's funny is even knowing that, right? I've even made the wrong decision knowing I was making the wrong decision, but I didn't care of the consequences because I wanted what I was getting in the moment, right? And I learned after making that the consequences do matter, and you need to, if you think it's a bad idea, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be a bad idea, and you shouldn't do it. And so, like, all of these different mistakes that I made, I learned from, and so I'm able to apply that. And now I don't act on my emotions nearly as much, if at all any anymore. I mean, I do sometimes. I'm human, and sometimes, anger or, sadness will get the best of me, and I will act on that emotion. But I think I'm at a point now in my life where I can, because I'm wiser now and I understand how to control those emotions and how to control those actions within those emotions. But I wanted to continue this clip here real quick, because he does say some other interesting points about emotional men being dangerous.
To fix society, we have to fix that at the most base level, the root level. I think America and most countries need more transparency and understanding of how things work. But when they're attacking the family unit, they're attacking all of these issues. Every issue you've just labeled all starts back down to the beginning. I really think the reason, I would like to argue, and I don't know any of the statistics on this, in the 1950s, I'm sure there was prevalence of guns all around America, but there just wasn't the school shooting. Why? What was different? What was different in the years before that there is now?
Now, that is a great point, right? And Patrick Bet-David goes into that too. They jump into this a little bit in the interview. They spend a good 5 to 8 minutes on the difference between the 50s and now. And he's right. Per capita, the guns per capita in the 50s compared to now is almost identical. But yet, school shootings have gone up tremendously. There were no school shootings or mass shootings in the 50s like there are now. So what changed? Right? Like he says, what changed in society from then to now? Ask yourself that question, right? And I mean, let me know what you think, because I have a few thoughts. Obviously, Andrew Tate has a few thoughts. I want to know what your thoughts are too. So leave them down in the comments down below. And hey, if you're watching the show and you like what you're seeing, make sure to smash that like button. Let me see if I can pull up the chat window here. I'm an idiot. Like I said, I'm new to this, so pardon me, guys. But if you like what you're watching, smash that like button. Make sure to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. But I want to get back to this comment that he made about the guns per capita in the 50s and stuff.
I think it's just because children obeyed their parents, and their parents were a family, and there was a degree of responsibility that was instilled inside of people, and there's a degree of accountability, and there was a degree of honor and pride.
Great question.
There's a degree of honor and pride. Yeah. I'll tell you something now. I bet in the 60s, 70s, whatever, in any country in the world, people didn't want to do dumb shit because the family would be known as criminals. The last name would be tarnished. Their son did this. You hear what their son did? There was a vested interest in all of it. Now you have a school shooter who's going to go out there, be a piece of shit and kill people, and then their parents are on TV, well, yeah, he was failed by the system. They don't even feel any shame. It's unbelievable. If one of my children or someone close to me did something that heinous, I would be disgusted. I would apologize just for the name alone. There's no honor left. There's no pride left in the name. And this is what happens when you remove honor and pride from people.
And he's right. Like, that's, what I wanted to really, like, he's touching on how, emotional men are dangerous and they're acting on emotions. That's how you get these school shooters. And that's because they don't have any pride in their name and they don't take any respect and honor in their family. And I get that. Because like I said earlier, I had that instilled in me at a very early age, that you have to have pride in your name and respect where and honor where your family came from, and good or bad, right? Like, look, my family ain't, all that. Like, there's some weird stories that are in my family, and my family history and all that. And so I take pride in all of that. Weird stories, good stories, bad stories, good people, bad people, good things, bad, everything, all of it, right? You got to take it and have pride in the name that of the people who have given you your life and have gone through all those sacrifices to bring you into this world and give you the opportunity to make something of yourself and all of that. So I understand that how you fight for pride and in taking honor in your name. Let's see here. Oh, Tate's words make a lot of sense in regards to trying to re-gear yourself to task when you have responsibilities that the mentor does not. No, that's true. I mean, that's true. But he in the interview he does, like he says it's not easy task when you have responsibilities that the mentor does not have, right? Like, and I totally get that. And Tate addresses that, right? He addresses that having money affords me the ability to not have to deal with a lot of that crap that most everyday average men have to deal with, right? And I get that because I'm an average guy. I'm just an average Joe that, has to deal with a lot of normal everyday stuff like you and everybody else. It's just, but I understand that he's right. And it's a hard truth that you have to accept, that yes, he does not have to deal with a lot of that stuff because he has worked hard and gotten to a position in his life where he doesn't have to worry about it because he's got money, and money affords you a lot of luxuries that you wouldn't normally get. It also affords you a lot of distance from problems and annoyances that you normally wouldn't be able to distance yourself from. And so, but I don't hold that against him because he worked hard for it. And he's out there trying to teach this to other people. So not only am I, like I can't hold it against him, but I got to give him props because not only did he do the work and he put in the work and put in the time and get to where he's at, but now he's turning around and he's showing people how to do it. He's showing men, how to be a G, how to be a top G and get to the level of Andrew Tate. I'm not saying I'm trying to aspire to get to that level, right? But a lot of what he says does make some sense. It does make sense to me. It does ring true and hit home for me as a man. And so that's what makes me want to listen to what Andrew Tate has to say even more. But like I said earlier about him, being a top G and that affords him things that the average man can't. I mean, he does have something to say on average men. Let me pull this clip up here.
Third of men under 30 have not been laid in a year.
If being average is not acceptable anymore.
At all.
It's not acceptable anymore. And it's not acceptable in the sexual marketplace, but it's also just not acceptable, I don't think, even in life anymore.
Period.
You have to diversify now so much to even protect yourself. The idea that you can just be a law-abiding citizen in a country and just work your job and be okay is gone.
And see, that right there hit home for me so much, man, because that's me, right? I'm in my own little jurisdiction, my own little space. I'm trying to, do things and get the word out and bring attention to some of this stuff. I'm trying. I'm, working hard at it, but I've got other things going on too. And so, but right there, like what he just said, that's me. That's probably a majority of men nowadays, but he's right too. Average men are no longer acceptable in today's society. And so I am trying to become an above average man by, bringing this forward, moving this whole business forward. I'm, trying to better myself and move myself in a direction that is better for me, my family, and, the people around me. So I 100% understand that, but let's listen to that again. I want to listen to that again.
Diversify now so much to even protect yourself. The idea that you can just be a law-abiding citizen in a country and just work your job and be okay is gone.
Like that. The idea that you can be a law-abiding citizen, work your job, and live in your country is gone. Like, how many of you guys watching is that right now? Like, how many of that is 100% on the money. Like that hit home for me so bad, like so good. I was like, whoa, holy crap. Now, mind you, this is deep into the interview. I'm talking probably hour 3 or so. And it was very, very long. 4.5 hours, but it was so good. The questions they asked were so good. His responses, the back and forth, you can tell that Andrew Tate has a lot of respect for Patrick Bet-David and vice versa. And it was very, very entertaining, even though it was 4.5 hours long. It is long, but it was very entertaining. You learn a lot about Andrew Tate and his outlook on life and on the world. Let's see. Says Capri says, I have my dad's report cards from the 60s. They had sections for assessing mannerisms, hygiene, and respect for others. Exactly, right? Why do we not have that in today's society? Why do we not have that? I mean, I remember my mom telling me about them learning about gun safety in school. Hello? Why are we not teaching more kids about gun safety and respecting firearms and all of that stuff? All of my kids learn it at a very young age. To respect firearms and to, and all the, different gun safety things that you're supposed to teach your kids. Treat them that they're always loaded, never handle them without an adult, all of that stuff, right? So, yeah, where did all that stuff go? All of that stuff is gone because They want to kill the nuclear family. They want to kill society in itself. You break apart society and you get it starting to fight each other like we are now, right? And pretty soon it'll all crumble and you can just waltz on in and implement whatever rules you want and get all the sheep to follow along, and the ones that don't, you lock them up or you do away with them in some way, shape, or form. And, you know, that's part of what Andrew Tate talks about the Matrix and their attack against him, because he's fighting against that and trying to teach men to be strong and masculine and stand up for those against those things, right? Let's continue this clip. I want to hear what the rest of you has to say here.
It's gone. If COVID doesn't prove that, I don't know what will. Look at my situation. You have to diversify. You have to be smart enough that you have assets and friends and capability and lawyers and whatever all over the world now. That's the only way to protect yourself. You can't just sit within one jurisdiction and go, oh, well, but I don't speed, so it's going to be okay. I don't think it is. I think it's coming to a point where it's not going to be okay. And AI is going to make it harder and harder, again, for those average men. It's going to be harder and harder. I don't think the exceptional men are ever going to suffer from AI. I think we're going to use AI.
You think?
No, and yeah, so he makes a good point, right? About average men not being acceptable anymore. And I see that. I see that in society. I've seen it for a long time. I mean, I can go all the way back to probably 2005 or 6 when I really started to notice that, man, you had to be more than just, you know, the average funny dude to really get ahead in today's world. And it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Now there are those exceptions, right? There are the few people who can get by like that. But most men nowadays, well, and I say this because of the way Western society is, right? Most men nowadays this is probably the hardest time in the dating world for men that it's ever been, right? If you aren't making 6 figures, over 6 feet tall, if you don't hit the 3 6s, you're not even worthy of a woman, you know, that I'm trying to find the right way to word this. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like it's just so hard for these guys nowadays that if you're not that guy, good luck, right? You're going to have a struggle, because I mean, even in today's society, you know, even what normal people would call, a 5 or a 6 is treated like an 8 or a 9, you know, if you're a female. But if you're a male and you're a 5 or a 6, you're treated like a 2 or a 3. And so I think this is going to be a very rough next couple of decades as we watch more and more feminine men, you know, enter society. It's unfortunate, but this is the world that the global elites or the Matrix wants, and so that's why they attack people like Andrew Tate. That's why they go after him, because he's more influential than any of the other guys that are talking the same stuff. I mean, you can go watch the same basic talking points if you go watch like Fresh and Fit on YouTube, right? Myron and Fit over there, those guys, they're basically talking about the same things that Andrew talks about. I mean, they've even had Andrew on the podcast a few times. So like, but they talk about the same things. I mean, in the Whatever podcast, you can watch that one too as well. They do the same thing as Andrew Tate, where they will bring, these girls in of various backgrounds and whatnot, and then ask them all these questions about their lifestyle and what they believe in, what a marriage should be, and traditional and versus non-traditional, and all this kind of stuff, right? And basically all they're doing is they're trying to expose that how hard men have it in today's world, and the complaint that that men have it so easy, and that life would be so much easier if I was a man, and all that is ridiculous, because men have it very, very hard in this world, and you need to be hard to make it through the hardships that the world is going to come throw at you as a man. And that's one of the things that Andrew, teaches in his Hustler University, and through his, and just in his, speeches and his podcasts or whatever, that you have to be stoic. You have to do what you don't want to do every day. You have to get up and go to that job, get up and go to the gym, wake up after 2 hours of sleep to take care of the kids, and do whatever. You have to do that. As a man, it's your responsibility to provide and protect for your family. And so whatever it takes, you have to do it. And you have to do it like you love it. And that's one of the things that Mike Tyson says, right? That you have to do what you hate like you love it, because that's the only way you're going to get through it. And I understand that. I get that, right? And that makes sense, and that hits home for me, and that motivates me to want to do more and push the envelope more. And that's why, I'm starting to really buckle down and try to make this channel better, and bring you more content and more talking points, and just an overall better show. So hopefully I'm doing that. Like I said, I'm still getting this live stream thing down. So, trying to talk without, rambling on too much is one of my downfalls. Like I will ramble for days if somebody will let me. So I'm working on that, and I appreciate you guys watching. It really does help keep me motivated to keep doing this. I hope that you guys are enjoying the content. And if you haven't subscribed here, that's cool. I would love for you to subscribe here on YouTube, but anywhere you follow me would be great. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, that's all great. Really though, if you want to help support the channel, head on over to Locals. You can join my community there, and with your membership, you'll get access to all of this content. Plus, I do exclusive content over there just for the Locals community. And once that community gets large enough, we're going to start doing Friday discussion groups where I bring in, 2 or 3 members from the community, and we discuss the news of the week, the topics of my live streams and videos for the week, and just kind of have an open discussion about, how we see the world and all of that. So if you want to be a part of that community, and you want to, help support the work I'm doing here and help grow this channel and this community with me, head on over to Locals. But I'm going to end it here. I appreciate you guys watching. It really does mean a lot that you're supporting my work. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I'll catch you later. Peace.